wants to be king!
Over the past couple of months, I've gotten several different messages from people with attachment of the various Andrew Tate interviews that he's done with people ranging from Pat Bet-David, and most recently, the one I saw, the last one was with Candace Owens. And in each message, the person who sent it was asking my opinion about this situation and this person. And I've been reluctant to answer it because, like I've said many times in my videos pertaining to Tate and his influence and everything that comes with him, I really don't care. I don't care about the dude. I don't care about what he's doing. I don't care about what he's done. I try to make that abundantly clear. Also, I don't know him, so I have no really vested interest in what he's doing or any of that. I don't care. The part where I do come in is the fact that this channel has always been about trying to help men and trying to guide young boys down a path that is in pretty much direct opposition of the way that the world would have them go. I'll be 53 in just a few days, and over that course of time, I've paid really close attention to the things that I've done. I learned at a very early age that it is important to learn from the things that happen in our lives that aren't so pleasing, that don't get us to where we want to be. And once I came to the full fruition of the things that I'd done, I found myself in prison, which for me was the absolute best thing that could have happened, because it is where I became a man. It was where I learned who I was and what it was that my life was supposed to be. And granted, it did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. For the most part, I am on the path that I was trained to be on. And because of that, Andrew Tate's influence in this space hits me much like when Conor McGregor came into UFC, the way that Nate Diaz felt. I've put forth several years with virtually no comeback on it, even though I'm eligible for the monetization and the partner program. My videos are not viewed, they're not seen in the same manner that clowns like Fresh and Fit and the other red pill losers, these guys with this conflict speak, the guys that bring women on and degrade them, or bring on clowns like Andrew Tate or Rolo. These channels are massive because these channels are preaching to men weakness, apathy, and quitting. And then they've evolved to getting the bobblehead girls in a circle and berating them while the losers in the audience chunk money at them so they can beat up on the girl too via super chat. And when you see this behavior as a man from so-called leaders, and it's disturbing, and if I'm honest, there's a tinge of jealousy and probably some other negative emotional feelings when I see their success, when I know that it's all about the money for these guys. And when I listen to them talk, you could make a whole channel about smashing these guys, but that's not the point here either. It is simply to give the information to those who listen, give them a different perspective, a grown man's perspective, and then you can do with the information what you wish. So I've put off answering any of these messages because every time I sat down and tried to address it, I got stuck. I couldn't speak. It didn't flow. And so I just put it off. If it doesn't come out, if it doesn't flow straight, it's not meant to be. And so a few days went by and a series of events happened that guided me back to this path. And the finale was, on my way to work the other morning, I almost stepped on a rattlesnake right outside my car. So I had dispatch of him. And then I drove up the driveway and I got out to deal with the gate. As soon as I opened the gate, the car door, there was a scorpion on the ground. And to me, for some reason, that hit my soul a little special. And I said a prayer and I asked God, show me what you want me to know. Like this is that for some reason that sequence of events, it stirred my soul. And so I asked that God open my eyes to what it is that I was supposed to see. And ironically or poetically enough, it guided me to this Andrew Tate situation. And I watched the final video that I watched, and the reason why I'm making this video was the Candace Owens defense video, where she defended her position on Tate and did the very thing that she sat with him and admonished people for doing with him, with one of the girls that's involved in this. And so when I went back and I started looking at things, I looked at it and I tried to remove the bias that I held in dealing with this, because my own checkered past and my own mistakes and the things that I did in life that I felt at the time were out of necessity. But I've grown a great deal since I made those choices, and I realized that it wasn't necessity, it was greed. And when I started to look at the Tate situation through the eyes of a man that wasn't trying to play fair, so that I didn't magnify my own default or defects, then I saw the whole situation in a completely different light. While the message that is being preached to young men is admirable. It's admirable. All young men should be strong. All young men should be capable. They should be men. That message is generic. It is a message that young men should have learned through the men that influence their life through school. But our culture has degraded to such a point that there's a vast canyon between the knowledge of men and young boys, and that crater has been filled with feminist bullshit, feminist rhetoric and ideology, to where young men have been emasculated to the point where they're desperately looking for a hero. The other day, after my awakening with the snake and the scorpion, I had a conversation with one of the fellas that I grew up with, a guy who knew me from my previous life, and Tate came up, and we started discussing who this guy is and the way he carries himself. And in that conversation, a couple of things became very apparent. The first thing was that I couldn't understand how the influence is so massive with this guy. But after talking with my mate, we came to the conclusion, to the realization of who Andrew Tate is on a fundamental level. And most of the people who subscribe to him, most of the people who hold him up in on a chariot of greatness are young kids. They're little boys. And when you realize that, when you realize the attention span and just the personality of the people who like Andrew Tate, who deify him, they're impressionable little boys. In that realization, and in the conversation with my buddy, we came up with a perfect analogy of who he is and why he is the way that he is. when you're in school, there's people who are nerdy, almost losers. They don't fit in. They get picked on. Life is not very kind to them in their earlier years, and so these people don't get to enjoy the perks that others get to enjoy. Their perception of the other people, the popular guys, the jocks, the people that are popular, the people that other people like hanging around with or want to hang around with because they're whatever it is, that adolescent silliness. A lot of times after graduation, you will find a dude that was just a loser in high school, but he got a good job and maybe got a decent car and put a system in it. And this guy, 4 or 5 years after graduation, still showing up to the high school and at halftime popping his trunk and turning the stereo on with a muscle shirt on. That's who Andrew Tate is. Andrew Tate is the nerd that was desperately looking for other people's acceptance, other people's validation, and he became this character, this charismatic character that has captivated so many people. But one of the things that bothers me about what he is, what the dark side of him is my involvement with an organization called WASP, and the thing that I'm truly passionate about outside of building men, and that is helping those that are victimized by monsters. When you go through the lineage of how Tate got to where he's at, he is directly or indirectly involved in this nasty business. And because of that, I have no respect for the man whatsoever. I don't care about his money. I'm not impressed with his getting trophies in a ring, any of those things, but those things are impressive to little boys. And another thing that came out of the conversation with my bud is the fact that Andrew Tate's methodology, the things that he does, is the exact same thing that groomers do. Nice car, walking around with his shirt off. He's almost an NAMBLA dude. You know, the majority of his audience are young boys, and this dude's always walking around with booty shorts on and his shirt off, trying to catch a pump before he gets on the camera. He's a genuine clown. When you look at Andrew Tate through the vision of a real man, all you see is a man, as a Richie Rich type character with too much money and just a lack of perspective of what it takes to be a real man. But again, when you analyze this situation through the eyes of a man, you'll realize that both of these boys were desperately clutching for the attention of their father. But like so many young boys do, they deify that father that's missing, that's absent, that is so selfish that his own personal interests are more important than actually raising the boys that he seeds. And in listening to them talk about their father, he was an abusive dick. He belittled them at all points to let them know that he was superior to them, and he was an extreme narcissist. That's exactly what Andrew Tate is. He's a narcissistic sociopath, if not a psychopath, because this guy has facilitated his wealth by fleecing men, lying to men, by putting himself in a position of the woman to extract the resources from a man. And that goes along the lines of what we were told by the hustlers in my youth, that a pimp will bend over and take it if it means getting what he wants. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if that was the case with this dude. It's all about the money. It's all about the clout. It's all about being in this position that he thinks elevates himself. And he's selling poison to these young men who listen to him. But he's been doing that for a while. And it's no surprise to those people who have watched his rise. The problem and the reason that I felt compelled to speak on this now is the fact that he's gone on this tour of trying to vindicate himself for things that he has admitted to doing to other people. Like, this isn't conjecture, it isn't opinion. I pulled the paperwork on it, and the things that the dude is accused of, he is admitted to in his search to impress other losers, and in his effort to make himself look like the top G. He has snitched on himself over and over again. His insane lust to be famous, which goes back, I mean, it goes back forever. There's Truman Show-like documentation of this dude's whole existence and what he's done. And he's done it to himself. He has snitched on himself, trying to make himself look like the top dog, trying to make himself look like he's some badass dude, when he should have just built his empire and kept his mouth shut. That's what true G's do. But Andrew Tate's a grown-ass man that's stuck in Arrested Development. And seeing him rent a bounce house slide and play with water guns like a little boy, it really made it hit home of who this dude is. He learned how to fight because he was getting bullied in school. He wasn't a real athlete. Otherwise, he would have been a football player. He would have been a rugby player. He would have been something that real athletes go after. He went into kickboxing because most likely he was tired of getting bullied. Most likely, Andrew Tate became who he was because of his desperate desire to win his dad's validation and approval, and his desperate desire to be someone amongst his peers. Now that he's extracted all the wealth from the men that he's lied to, he is going after the young boys, and the final nail in the coffin is this trying on of spirituality and religion like one of his tight shirts. I've seen videos where the guys mocked God, said that God was stupid, and put himself above God. Then he decides he wants to be a Christian. Then he wants to be a Muslim. And like I've spoken about in the past, this dude has created God in his own image. He's chose to be a Muslim because as a Christian he would have to change his life. He would have to do a lot of things. If he was going to be a true Christian, he would have to repent for the sins that he has acquired his wealth in doing. He would have to do a lot of things, and the person that he is would not be accepted or celebrated. But with Islam, he's got a nation of open arms because of his status. You can get away with a lot when you have money. You just look at how they act in Saudi Arabia. When the real people that believe in what they believe are in flip-flops and sacks in the desert somewhere. They're not driving Bugattis and living in mansions. This guy has done what most cowards do when they enter into the penitentiary. I believe he's felt the heat of what he's admitted to, what he's done. I think that in his spidey sense, he's known that he was going to have a reckoning for the things that he's done, the things that he said. And like so many cowards do, they grab religion, spirituality. When I was in the pen, that's what all the people that were in there for doing things that would get them decimated, they all hid behind the Bible. They all went to church and hid behind God instead of dealing with what they did. And I think that Mr. Tate, because of his desire to play with God and to mock God, now to lean on God for his answers, I think that he is going to learn a lesson that I learned the hard way. Sometimes the thing that you're paying for isn't the thing that you just did, it's for the things that you've done. And Andrew Tate has done a lot of horrible things. He has manipulated a lot of people, and now he's manipulating the youth of our world. These lost young boys are looking into this guy, and he is calling them to bend at the knee and kiss his feet as if he is the Messiah. And that is where he must be stopped. That's where he must be challenged. Andrew Tate is the epitome of an antichrist. He is drawing young boys away from Christianity and towards something that I feel is dark, that is evil. And it's not Islam but it is the Tate influence on Islam. The Bible says very clearly that in the last days, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, pleasure, material things. Andrew Tate is that incarnate. Even though he spends money trying to do good things for people, most criminals do acts like that. Bumpy Johnson did it. Everybody, all dope dealers pass out turkeys on Christmas. If Andrew Tate is a hero, then we should deify those dealers who poison their community but buy children's shoes when they need it. The message is generic, and the message that he preaches that is good to men, there's so many other good men that should be followed. But the only man that any of us truly need to follow, the one man that we should emulate, the one man we should turn to and ask for answers is Christ, not Andrew Tate. Tate would have the world believe that he is an innocent man, and he is not an innocent man. Best case scenario, he is guilty of being a liar, a perpetual liar. But he's already told us who he is. He's told the whole world what he's all about. Now it's up to you to use common sense. It's up to you to find out the truth. The time for play is over. The hourglass is almost out of sand. It's time for young men to wake up. It's time to hit your knees and pray and ask God for guidance, not Andrew Tate. Out.
Who wants to be king?